Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. In today's video, we are going to be talking about all things money feelings or feelings about money. Essentially, everything that I'm going to be talking about has to do with one's relationship with money or our relationships with money. So if that is of interest to you, then please keep watching. Okay, so I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about this topic because I recently got a question from a viewer because my husband and I did a poll on Instagram and Facebook trying to get some questions so we could film our first ever couples Q&A, which we have done, by the way. So check out that video and all of the subsequent videos whenever you get a chance, because it turned out to be a 4-part series. Otherwise, the video would have been like 2 hours long. So anyway, a viewer asked a question, and what they asked was, how is it that I came to be able to share our financial journey online? And so I really went inward when thinking about that, because I will say I've been asked that question multiple times before, but I definitely never processed it to the extent that I recently processed it. So I want to kind of share those thoughts with you guys because, like many of my other videos, I have a self-reflecting activity that I want to share with you guys. And so anytime that I'm sharing something like that, it's because I've had a recent revelation or epiphany, and so I think that it's helpful to kind of share that information with other people. But anyway, like I said, I've been asked that question multiple times before, but it wasn't until now when I really thought about that. I will say that I am employed by the public school system and I am off of work for the summer, and so I really feel like I have a lot of time to think and self-reflect and process, time that I normally don't have, because normally I'm in my routine of waking up, going to work, coming home, cleaning, cooking, exercising, taking care of the dog, sleeping, and repeating. And so when I do get time off, I definitely don't think I am being still too much. I feel like that's the time to go on a date night or go hang out with friends or family members. And so I definitely am not getting the time to myself that I probably should get, because when I am alone and when I am alone with my thoughts, I feel like that's the time that I really get to do some inner work. I think they call it shadow work, but in my field of study, field of work, line of work, we call it processing, self-reflecting, going inward, sitting with our feelings, seeing what feelings come up. You know, that's the type of terminology that we use. So I've been able to do a lot of that recently, and yeah, I just want to kind of share that with you guys. So what I recently discovered in doing my inner work is that I actually don't have feelings that are associated with money. So if you take it back to when I was earning minimum wage or any other part of my life, if you take it back to 5 years ago to current, whenever, at any point in my life, I've never had feelings associated with money. Meaning I've never, gotten paid or gotten money in my hand or whatever and thought, experience feelings of happiness or sadness or anything. I've not experienced any feeling because I think money is just a resource and a tool. Now, unfortunately, the capitalists, those people who kind of hoard the money and resources, them doing what they do does not make it easy for the rest of us. So, there are people who literally, are experiencing homelessness or are living paycheck to paycheck just off the strength of the fact that they're not getting paid a whole lot. They work jobs where they're not being paid a livable wage. So anyway, I'm not going to go off on a tangent about capitalists because that's another topic for another video or another day. But if you think about it, money in and of itself is just a resource or a tool. And so what I was thinking about is, because of my views about that, it really lends itself to me having a better relationship with money. And so what it made me think about is how many people there are out there who may not have the same outlook when it comes to money. How many people there are out there who experience sadness, shame, embarrassment, fear, and those other types of adverse feelings when it comes to money. Now, when it comes to feelings, I personally put them in two categories. We have positive feelings or pleasant feelings, and then we have adverse feelings. I don't call them bad feelings or negative feelings. They're just adverse, and they're sometimes maybe a little uncomfortable and maybe foreign to us because we weren't taught, what those feelings are or were, and we weren't taught to properly, assess those feelings and process those feelings. So they may be, a little bit more difficult. And of course, they typically are a little uncomfortable and don't make us feel too good. But I don't think that they're bad, because I don't think any feeling is innately bad. They are just a little bit more difficult to process and to make sense of. But anyway, that's kind of just how I categorize feelings. And so I was just thinking about how there probably are lots of people out there who are experiencing adverse feelings when it comes to money. People who may have done some things with their money that they're not happy about, that they're sad about, that they think maybe the decisions that they've made with their money were mistakes. And so just like with any other relationship that we have, especially with people and with humans, we have to nurture those relationships. We have to confront those relationships, and we have to work through those adverse feelings. There have been times where people may have, you may have been treated poorly, or you may have experienced a traumatic event, or people may have been abusive, or, whatever the case may be. And so typically when we kind of live in that space, that keeps us from the other side of it, which is healing. I always tell my students, or really anybody that I come in contact with, that on the other side of trauma or, deep pain or hurt or anything of the sort is what I consider to be healing. So on the other side of hurt is healing. And so I try to stress that to everyone that I come in contact with, because it really is the fact of the matter. And the difference between, a person thriving and being the best version of themselves sometimes is some type of traumatic event or some kind of stressor or roadblock or barrier. And in this particular case, sometimes, more often than not, the relationships that we have with money and the adverse feelings that come up for us or that we experience when it comes to money is literally what is the roadblock or the barrier to us having a more pleasant relationship with money and having a more pleasant experience whenever we think about money or whenever we are dealing with money. Like I mentioned before, no feelings come up for me when it comes to money. I view money as a resource and a tool to survive. That's pretty much all that it is for me. There has never come a time where any other feelings have come up for me. Does this mean that I have always done right by my money? No. Does this mean that I have always made the best decisions with my money? No. However, the thing that kind of keeps me on erring on the side of healing is because I have come face to face with the decisions that I've made with my money, and I have forgiven myself for those decisions. And honestly, a lot of times forgiveness is what is holding us back, or our inability to forgive is what is holding us back. Again, in relationships with people and with humans, and sometimes even our relationships with money. But I feel like sometimes this world creates this narrative that we really should be beating ourselves up for a decision that we made with our money, when in actuality, that's not really the case. Because if we knew better, we'd do better. But the world also, which means that that's toxic, but because the world also isn't set up to where we are all given that same opportunity, or even really an opportunity at all, to know and make better money decisions. So I'm not saying finances should be taught in school, but what I am saying is, when you were probably coming up, there probably was no financial education class in school. For a lot of us, we didn't learn any financial education from our family members or our parents or, the people who took care of us. So, and we certainly don't learn a lot about it out in the media, in the world. Thank heavens for YouTube and Instagram and blogs, I guess. But I would say that those have become more popular just in recent years. This hasn't been something that's been around for 20, 30 years probably. I mean, I'm sure Yahoo Finance has shared a few tips here and there on managing money perhaps, or how to save up for a vacation or something like that. But we haven't been getting that real education that we all know and need. Thank heavens for YouTube, I guess, and Instagram, because this is where I learned a lot of my financial education. So about 5 years ago, that's when I discovered that there were people on YouTube who were doing more than singing and dancing and trying to get discovered. That's where I learned to do my makeup. That's where I learned how to take care of my natural hair. I have learned so much from YouTube, and I also learned a lot from the people who came before me who were talking about money. So shout out to all of those who came before me. I do have to say, many of them are not really in this space anymore, and they don't make content anymore. I'd say probably because at some point it may get super repetitive to be making the same types of videos. I mean, how many saving tips videos can a person actually make? So that may be one of the reasons why people aren't as active, but I'm forever grateful for them, because I learned a lot of resources and tools and knowledge and education that I otherwise did not learn, when I was growing up. So I was like 25, when I started really learning about all of the financial things. And now I know so much more. My husband knows so much more. And what's exciting to me is the ability to, pass this information down from generation to generation. Sometimes when you think about generational wealth, a lot of people think of money and monetary goods and houses and cars and stuff. But for me, I think about knowledge, because knowledge is wealth. Health is wealth. There are so many other forms of wealth. And when it comes to finances, I'm excited to be able to share with future seedlings and my future children and generations, financial knowledge and what they can do with that. So my kid probably won't be left with like 20 houses or anything, but they may be left with a couple houses. But most importantly, they're going to have that financial knowledge and all of that. And so I'm just really excited about that. So all of that to say, thank heavens for the people who came before me and the people who are going to come after me and the people who are in the fight with me right now. Because if you think about it, similar to a pyramid scheme, that's kind of how information works. So, and knowledge works. And so what I teach and show here on my channel, hopefully, has touched the lives of, I don't know how many people, tens of thousands of people out there. Same thing for other financial educators. And, once one person knows and learns and shares their information, then other people know. So now at this point, anybody who I come in contact with, especially if we're talking about money or if they ask about money, that's information that they can learn from me and then go on to possibly change the trajectory of their future and even their children's future, which is, honestly the case for me. I think that's the true meaning of community, is being able to look out for one another. So it may not be, giving someone a ride to work because their car broke down, or helping someone on the side of the road, or letting someone borrow sugar. It may be just sharing your knowledge and education with them so that they can go forth and share that with other people. So all of that to say, kind of two reasons as to why I'm able to do this. One, because my hope is to educate and inspire so that other people can learn all the things that I've learned and be able to, like I said, possibly change the trajectory of their future and their children's futures. Also because I don't have or experience any adverse feelings when it comes to money. Lots of times people consider talking about this type of stuff to be unusual or taboo and even uncomfortable. But the fact of the matter is, nothing good really comes from us being comfortable whenever we face what is uncomfortable to us. Sometimes, obviously, case by case scenario, but a lot of times when we face those uncomfortable feelings is when we can really heal and grow and come out on the other side. So I want you to ask yourselves what feelings come up for you when you think about your current relationship with money. Do you experience sadness, fear, anger, shame? What are the feelings that come up for you? Write those down. Acknowledge those. Reflect on those. Think about why that is. Process that. When we process it, when we process information, we really try to dissect it and really try to figure out the source. And so in this case, you're figuring out the source of those adverse feelings and why they're coming up for you. Of course, the second part of processing any type of feelings or information is being able to acknowledge change and putting in place action steps to take to move towards better. And again, at the core of this, I feel like, is forgiveness. We have to learn to forgive ourselves, just like sometimes we have to forgive other people. I am all about forgiveness. I do not like carrying around any hatred or malice in my heart about anyone else, and especially not about me. So I'm definitely not going to not extend myself the same grace as well, because I feel like a lot of times forgiveness helps us to heal and to grow and to come out better. And so that's really what it comes down to when we're talking about money. We have to forgive ourselves for any decisions that we may have made that may not have been the best, and learn to move forward. So I want you to reflect on the feelings that come up for you, write those down, and start moving towards forgiveness. It's hard to be great and to be our highest selves and to be the best version of ourselves when we're carrying around and experiencing adverse feelings, you know, those adverse feelings like shame and guilt and hurt and pain and all of that. So anyway, that's what I want to leave you guys with today. And I just wanted to share this information. Hopefully it was helpful. Again, this is the process that I went through. These are the type of questions that I had to ask of myself, or that I was recently asking of myself. This is the recent revelation that I actually had. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and if you're liking what you're seeing, and I will catch you guys right back here in a few days in a brand new video. Bye guys.